Good morning, everybody. Are we about to get a China pump, massive multi-trillion-dollar injection into the market? We've got to talk about that. And the market still is chopping sideways. Bitcoin pulling back a little bit today. ETH actually starting to push up. Is it a bit of a bull trap, or are we starting to see signs of the market reversing and actually pushing to the upside? We're going to be talking about all that and more. Let me go ahead and get this retweeted. Everybody share this to your friends and family. We're going to be going live here on screen in just a moment. I want to know, are you bullish or bearish on this week? Remember, tomorrow we've got some big news. So let's everybody go ahead and get into this. Let's get it going. Good morning, February 17th, Monday. I am coming to you live from my cousin's house here in Las Vegas, getting some work done out here, meeting some people. But we've got some charts we've got to look at today because what is going on in the market? It seems like it absolutely never gets to where we want it to be. By the way, welcome. If this is your first time here, I don't know where, hold on a second. I have to control all this with my mouse. I don't have my little switcher, but it's all good. We can just get it. There we go. Looking at the markets, we're not really seeing, what we want unless you are an absolute bull on 2025. What do we see? Why can I not close that out? God dang it. We're seeing the price action still giving us opportunity. Let me just make sure really quick. Everything is looking good. Okay, looks like it's looking all right. I was just looking, boom. I don't have my dual screen set up. I don't have my mic. I went just raw homegrown status today, just the laptop and the computer. Let me know, by the way, if the audio and everything is sounding okay, because it is a mic it's a computer mic. But looking at what's going on here, the price, I mean, nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. Price is just still in the same range that it's been in since the beginning of February, minus this massive washout V-shaped correction. But then it's just right in this range. What we really want to look for is what happens if, and what is the key level for this to break to the downside if it does. But when is this going to reverse? Because when we look at everything going on in the market, what do we see? We saw ETH pushing up, but is it really a breakout? Because price, same thing. I mean, look at Bitcoin. This is still sideways. Yes, this is down on the lower side of that sideways. Ethereum, it's sideways. It's got a little bit of an upward motion. Where are the bulls coming in? If this does reverse and come to the downside, where, like, what levels are we watching? Now, let me just go ahead and double check on the. How come I cannot see that? Let me see. 1 second. Boom. Doing well. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. Looks like it's looking good, sounding good. Awesome. So let me come back to what we want to look at today, because when we come over here and we look, there are assets out there that have been making some moves. You might feel like nothing's happening, but it might just be the assets you're in right now. It doesn't mean one asset better and the other asset sucks. No, these things take their turn going back and forth, especially right now where it's primarily a lot of capital rotation between these different assets. We want to see when the market really gets that push, when basically catching that move to the upside. Because when we look at everything going on and we realize, look, we're still in the same zone that we have been in. $3.22 trillion market cap for the total crypto market cap. So when we understand that, remember last few days it's gone between like 3.06 and most of the time 3.17, 3.2, 3.19, 3.22. Nothing's changed. The price action, as you can see on the charts, is just sideways. And if we are as bullish as we expect for 2025, some of us would be rooting for this to come to the downside. In fact, when we look at the the crypto liquidity, this looks like it really wants to get hit, which is this move down to basically the lower 95s, and likely, if it comes into this, coming down somewhere here in these mid 94s, which is all perfectly well and good. Yet, even from this price point, if the market actually dips down into this, you'll see a lot of people saying, oh, Bitcoin's crashing. This is not a crash. A crash would be if Bitcoin comes down and loses. Look at this. See the price right here on the right? The lower side of these wicks is 94.7, 94.8, but that still will be well within the sideways range. So what are those levels? We're going to be looking at that level here on Bitcoin and Ethereum here in a little bit, but we got to go through a couple things. I think, yeah. So why did I do China pump coming? Well, there's rumors that China is going to unban Bitcoin. Now, this has been somewhat of a persistent thing since November, when Shanghai basically listed Bitcoin and a small group of other altcoins like I think it's Ethereum, AVAX, uh, and there's two or three others. It doesn't really matter what that is, but listed them legal to hold. Now, Shanghai and China are two different jurisdictions. However, they are in some ways one and the same. So, is this a true rumor? What is going on? Because we see this from Max Brown, but then we also see right here, we see China starting to print their liquidity. The liquidity is starting to tick up, as I showed you all on Friday. But beyond that, we're seeing liquidity tick up. We see a likelihood of China unbanning. And remember, when we consider what's going on right now with the strategic Bitcoin reserve, not only here in the US as a nation, but also the various different states. I think 31 states now have proposed legislation for Bitcoin reserves. This starts to, push that race forward about being able to stack. In fact, we also saw Abu Dhabi, and I think it was Friday, we saw Abu Dhabi announce that they have been stacking Bitcoin into one of their sovereign wealth funds. It's one of the first, other than El Salvador, one of the first really major nation states out there saying, okay, we're acknowledging based on some of their financial disclosures, acknowledging that we're stacking. So not only do we have the U.S. nation state, as well as all of our individual states within the U.S., with all these legislative and announced plans to buy Bitcoin, we've also seen El Salvador make moves over the last 2 years. We see Bhutan, which has been mining Bitcoin. Over $1 billion worth, I believe now. And now Abu Dhabi. Of course, Czechoslovakia announced that they changed their rules for long-term Bitcoin holding for taxes. You don't have to pay income tax on your when you sell Bitcoin if you've been holding it longer than 3 years. We're seeing a lot of movement globally around what's going on with Bitcoin and basically creating more of an ecosystem of you can do this, which for most of crypto's lifespan so far has been marred with people just seeing how incredible Bitcoin is and trusting that there's no way governments at some point aren't going to get behind this. And even if they don't get behind it, the decentralized nature of Bitcoin still lends itself to being uncensorable. So the fact that institutions, corporations, and the international environment of governments is all leaning, basically just inching toward absolutely jumping into this space. And yet Bitcoin is sitting at this just sideways price action. Just blows me away that this frustrates people because it's like, man, I will take as much time to stack as possible if this ecosystem does have this underlying framework that's just getting stronger and stronger. So is there really a rumor for China to unban? Well, we see the global liquidity ticking up. We saw those other rumors. We also see this from Leshka. China is going to make crypto legal. Over $1 trillion will be injected into the market. I have a little bit of a cold. Few China-backed tokens will skyrocket in days. It doesn't matter which ones he's listing there. But is this a rumor? Well, then now we also see news headlines. Rumor of China's plan to unban Bitcoin by 2025. So does this mean early? Does this mean later in the year? Does this mean when? Regardless of when it happens, this is incredibly bullish for the future. Now, will they do it or not? Because the reason I bring that up is because there's also a headline this morning. We did a breaking news space this morning on Mario Nawfal's channel. There is somebody that just burned, I think it was like over 600 ETH, which was like $1.6 million, or I can't remember the total, burned, and also donated about $5 million worth of ETH to WikiLeaks, and basically posted an inscription, a message on the blockchain, which means it's uncensorable. Everybody can see it. That there's this whole thing with mind control, this and that. But the point here is the reason why this is a little contentious is, and we discussed this on that breaking news stream, is if that's the case, if China is on the cusp of unbanning Bitcoin and really making it available to all the citizenry as well as institutions, corporations, and the government, and the government, could this be something that could also put that in a stalemate? Because China doesn't really support this idea of free speech and political dissent. So we've got to keep an eye on that, because if there is, like, even if it's a limited unban for a certain subset or corporations, or maybe it has to be through basically a China based ETF. Who knows what this is going to mean? But if this is going to happen, I want to be positioned before this. And remember, regardless of if China does or doesn't unban, it means nothing in terms of the long-term life of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's going to be here. This is going to be something that could accelerate how much liquidity comes in, uh, in the months and years after. But this would create a massive speculative push up in price if it does happen. If it doesn't happen, or it's announced that it absolutely will not, that'll create a little bit of a sell-off in the market, but ultimately that would just be a buying opportunity. So I just wanted to make note of that because everything going on, we still have the FTX repayment starting tomorrow. $18 billion will flow into the Bitcoin and altcoins from stablecoins. And this is supposedly starting tomorrow. We'll have to see how this lays out. I know they're doing smaller creditors first, meaning people that have been holding, waiting for their disbursements. But this is something that is massively bullish for the space. And in addition to that, we also see Texas Senate scheduled hearing tomorrow. Not only is it FTX, but a Texas Senate scheduled hearing tomorrow on the February 18th to discuss the creation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve. So this has been legislation and stuff that's been in the government body discussing this, but they do have a hearing tomorrow. In addition, now, of course, this is different than the FTX disbursements, but we're starting to see a stacking up of bullish news. Could this kick off a bit of bullish momentum in the market? And then what do we see here? In just 1 year, institutions have accumulated over 300,000 Bitcoin in ETFs, nearly doubling their holdings since Q3. This is incredible. So look at this at the bottom. All of this is, boom, boom, boom. This is okay. So it's a day, month, year, right? Because in the US we do month, day, year. So this is September, October, November, December, and look at this. At the beginning of the year, is when those ETFs were launched. And yes, there was a steady inflow up at the way back here, early 2024. But look at this increase here, boom, going into the end of the year. And this, remember, this does not account for, because this is ETFs, this does not account for people that have bought MicroStrategy for Bitcoin, like a proxy Bitcoin exposure. It doesn't include MicroStrategy's holdings that they've been stacking as well. Remember, MicroStrategy has something like 479 or 477,000 Bitcoin. Incredible. And this does not also account for the retail level of purchases that have come in to Bitcoin through these ETFs. So this is incredible, especially with what we see moving forward. So make note of that. And then we want to look at the dominance. Bitcoin dominance weekly close confirms bearish divergence and bearish engulfing candles, and after last week's large wick since 2020 dominance cycle top. So this is what we want to see for altcoins. We're seeing a bearish divergence met with the gravestone doji, meaning we got this massive wick to the upside, very small body, and then the bearish candle here is what's known as a bearish engulfing candle. This is when the candle it opens here, closes slightly lower than this. So this candle is larger. It fully engulfs the size of the bullish candle before that. So not only do we get the massive bullish wick that the bears dominated, smashing this back down. It's like Michael Jordan or LeBron James just smacking your ball, blocking it out of the rim. But you also get a larger candle than the candle body here, showing a growing sort of bearish setup here because we have bearish divergence, suggesting there's weakness at this level for the dominance. And if this does persist and start making its way to the downside, this is when we're going to see this altcoins. This is when we're going to start to see everything be green. Whether you're looking at the monthly, which is very red, right? We got some ground to make up, but great. This has presented opportunities for those of you that have been stacking. But we're also going to start seeing, everything this is on the weekly, but we're going to start seeing just green for the most part across the board. And all of you that have been stacking will really be able to take advantage of that. So coming back over here, liquidity up, coming over to the global liquidity, what do we see? See, the global liquidity has ticked down. We saw a little pop for a second. It's kind of hovering here for a moment. I do expect to see this in the coming months really start to tick up, whether it's stealth quantitative easing mechanisms here in the US, but also remember the US isn't the only thing in the global liquidity markets. It's also, for the most, it's US, China, and European Central Bank. So if this does start to really tick up, that's when we're going to really start to see some bullishness. In fact, if we come over here to the Dixie chart, the blue dotted line here is the strength of the dollar. We did see a bit of a reversal here, starting to come down. Will this continue to move to the downside? Because if this does continue to move to the downside and we see the global liquidity ticking up, that will be the perfect storm for Bitcoin and your alts to really start making headway. So let's get back over here. Got a couple more charts, and we're going to look at some TA. The whales, Ethereum whales. Everybody's so worried about Ethereum, but it's not everybody. It's retail saying, why isn't this moving now? And what do we see? We see the whales, the whale walls, balances by holder value, AKA balances of 10,000 to 100,000 Ethereum. And what do we see? A massive swing to the upside here with the price action just sitting here. I mean, this has just been sideways action, it looks like, for 3 years with a bit of a sell off, but coming right back into the zone. Guys, I think Ethereum is setting up for something massive. So when we look at Ethereum, what's going on? Well, technically speaking, I mean, since back here, December, we've just been in a falling channel with a big deviation washout wick to the downside. But look, back in the zone. And in fact, not only are we back in the zone, we got this nice rounding bottom here. And really, let's go ahead and draw a box on this. And let me look really quick. I just want to make sure everything is looking good, sounding good. You guys can hear me, right? Everything good? Okay, cool. I don't have my second screen, so I have to go back and forth from these. And I'll come back and check your comments here in a second because I can't see those on my screen setup. This is what we're really watching on Ethereum, everybody. This is like the block zone. It's like, once we clear this level, it doesn't mean all systems go. But once we clear this level, which we have not been able to since February 3rd, push up back, push up back, push up back, push up back, push. It just keeps getting rejected. But we do have a low, higher low, higher low, higher low, right? If this can maintain that and we get, we're able to break through this, what we're really watching for next, I would say, is this, this zone right in here. And there's some deviations here. But this is important because this zone intersects perfectly, this horizontal zone, which is all these lows, intersects perfectly with this descending level of resistance. And this would be up here at this 3100, 3126 sort of area. If this pushes straight up into it, if this is all time based, because if this continues, like basically kind of works its way up here, it might be hitting the zone down here at about the 3050 zone. But regardless of this, we can actually even stretch this if we want. But this zone is going to be more critical than this zone. In fact, if we do push up into this very quickly, I would expect a little bit of a sell-off, consolidation, breakout, retest, boom, to the upside. The point being here is let's not get disinterested because the price isn't doing what we want to right now, because we see the big smart money signals, whales stacking into this zone. Retail is selling because they're bored. Smart money is saying, I'll take your bags for you for cheaper. Sure. This is what we want to be watching. Smart money in these markets. And because we continue on, this is another chart on ETH. I'm not surprised Ethereum repeats the same pattern again. ETH is trending upwards regardless. And what is this? It's almost like this. I won't call it a triple top, but this triple pump pattern: pump up, break down, pump up, break down, finding support, pump up, break down into a secondary pump that's a little lower, break down. Then we get a double top. Okay, well, what are we seeing right now? Well, we're right in the same zone. This is finding support on these previous range highs. So if this does push up from here and we get a massive move all the way up here into that $6,000 mark, maybe 7,000. Remember, we've measured that move on this breakout and it does show somewhere between 65 to 8,000. We have to wait to see how this market plays out because it's going to be all dependent on at what time scale over this year these government decisions are made in regards to strategic Bitcoin reserve, digital asset stockpile, and then the state level here in the US, but then also what happens on the international landscape of them trying to participate in this digital asset arms race. We can look at the historical trends, but we also have international potential arms race going on for digital assets. But then the question is going to be, what's the time frame of those things getting through the different members of Congress here in the US, but also the parliamentary and government bodies globally to get these things actuated and actually starting to roll. So we are looking bullish here and understanding that we have these higher lows along the way. We had the washout here. Bulls came right back up in. We are holding this zone currently. When we look at Ethereum, I mean, holding this zone, guys, massive. This is so scary bearishly, but understanding these charts, the fact, I mean, look at this. The fact, even on an 8 hour candle, the fact that the bulls ate this all the way back up. Let's get people to capitulate. Nope. This turned out to be an incredible accumulation opportunity for those that were able to buy anywhere part of this wick. Now the price is just holding right here. We're watching for that break to the upside. So understanding that. And then coming back, global liquidity, still holding in this zone, not doing much at the moment. But then we also have this key level we need to pay attention to. All right, key levels. Let's talk about it. We have the short-term holder cost basis here at 92.5, 92.470. Let's call it 92.5. This is the average price of every coin in circulation that's traded hands within the last 155 days. Now, why is this important? Because in bull markets, for the most part, not all the time, and I'm going to show you why, that this price point is critical for regionally holding when you're in an uptrend. What does this mean? Well, look, we lost it here. We also lost it here and traded under it for a bit, but held, boom, pushed back up, found support with a little deviation below. But look at this, we chopped below the short-term holder cost basis. But you can see predominantly, the price is held above the short-term holder cost basis in this entire trend. If we zoom back and we look here, look, when below it, bear market. When above it, bull market. When below it, bear market. When above it, bull market. When below it, bear market. And yet again, we're kind of on that same trajectory. My back is itching. So we want to pay attention to that. And you all remember last week we were talking about the old whales versus new whales. So who cares about the retail traders? Let's talk about the big money. Big money, the new whales, meaning people that have been stacking up massive amounts of Bitcoin, more than you and I hold or probably will ever hold, in the thousands, 5,000, 10,000, like major Bitcoin wallets. Their average price is around 89.5. In fact, it might have moved a little bit since then, but 89.5. So we have these two key metrics right now we're paying attention to for short-term holder cost basis, which is about 92. Let's do it. Let's do a mark on here. Where's 92.5? Or 92.5 is about right here. Okay. This would be short-term holder cost basis. Now, in addition to that, then we have the new whales, which is about 89.4, 89.5, which is, look, right where this bounced off of right here. So we can just leave that mark. So this tells me that we've got a pretty critical zone. We'll do a different color box right here, and I'm going to make this red. This is a pretty critical zone, and neither one is going to be exact, but they give you a region to pay attention to. You have the short-term holder cost basis that gets a little hinky in the zone. Maybe an incredible buying opportunity if you are bullish on the next 6 months. But then you also have the new whales short-term, the new whales average cost, which is on the lower side of this range. So this is kind of a critical zone-ish. And in fact, you all know I've been talking about the zone. If the price, I still think it's possible because the long-term outlook of how bullish this market setup is, but everybody's expectation of it to happen now prevents the perfect scenario for this to kind of come in here and lose and come down here, get a very sharp V-shape before we move to the upside. Now, I don't think this is going to happen, but I think this has about a 30% possibility, which is why we must know that this is a possibility. Now, I'm more bullish in this, but I cannot ignore that this might be something that happens. If this does push down into here and we get a V-shaped correction like this into this zone, that would be fantastic. Let me just double check. I just gotta look at the comments, make sure I'm not missing anything. Okay. You guys can still see. Great. Here we go. This for me, I think my mouse is dying. This for me would be a great buy opportunity for me. Okay. And I'm going to tell you why, but you need to hedge yourself. This isn't the end all be all. And this is not financial advice. This is from my strategy. I think this is a great buy opportunity because why can't I not? Hold on. Nope. Make this not bold. Let's make it a little smaller. 2x2. This is a great buyout for me because there's no telling if we get this all the way down here. If I buy here and it drops more, I will buy more down here. Does that make sense? Now, if you're just waiting for this down here, it's a good possibility you won't get it. This is called laddering your entries. You're basically dividing up where you're putting capital in the market so you can get the best average price. If you put everything, like for me, I'm not going to put everything in. I'm not going to jeet my entire dry powder bag here. I'll put about half of what I'm going to allocate towards Bitcoin in this zone, hoping kind of being prepared. If this does drop, I can buy down here as well. And then you get the average entry here about $85,000. Now, if I put half in here and it bounces out of this, great. Then I can reallocate that amount that I did not utilize on maybe an alt that hasn't moved, so on and so forth. But I do think that this will be probably this would be the dream buy. But I think this is among one of the last best bet buys in this cycle moving forward. I would hope what I really want as a bull is for the price really just to hold this zone that it's been chopping in right here. Does it make me upset that I don't get this if it happens? No, not at all, because I've been allocating to our other, those other alts that I've been sharing with you guys. When we're talking about, I don't know why this is getting, let me put this down here. You can't see what I have this little mini screen. I cannot move off my deal. So I'm putting it out of the way. But ETH is also, sitting in this zone. If this washes out and comes down here to 2,400, great. The buy opportunity, but we've been stacking into Ondo and it's getting better prices. And I talked to you about this last week. Even though I was stacking in here, it's okay. If this drops and we get an opportunity down here to $1.09, I would be forever grateful. Would I be mad? No. You have to pick your strategy and stick to it. Be adaptable, sure. But if you buy somewhere and the markets are being this chop, like, let's shake everybody out. It actually, for those of you, me, everybody in the BitLab Academy, Discover Crypto, Blockchain Basement, this means that you have a better opportunity here that can lower your average entry. And if you don't have dry powder, one, it's a lesson to have dry powder. Two, then you can just sit on your hands, educate yourself, learn. Right? So this doesn't make me mad. In fact, this rising wedge, rising channel told us that this would likely break down. It did. Came back up. Found a lot of chop here. But this is, getting weak here. If I get, when I DCA next in a few days, if this is lower, I would love to be able to buy down here at, again, at $10, $15, somewhere in this region. I'll kind of do a line like this. Hold on a sec. Here we go. Down in this zone would be fantastic. Will we get it? I don't know. These markets can have such a big revert. Like if China comes out tomorrow and is like, we're unbanning Bitcoin, everybody can buy. Well, then like the crypto markets, you could have the most bearish setup ever. And the crypto markets could just, boom, just jeet all over the bears' faces and just completely change the name of the game. Things change on a dime in this market, so you have to be prepared. Have to be prepared. So we see this also with Link. Link, yes, I mean, like almost, I mean, look at Ethereum, guys. Ethereum, look at the setup. Boom, it's exactly the same as Link. So when people go, why is Solana dumping right now? I mean, did you not see what was going on in the market over this weekend with everything with Libra coin and everything else going on? And in fact, when we're looking at Ethereum, everything is waiting on Bitcoin. And in this case, alts are waiting on Ethereum. And you can see that because Ethereum chart, look at this. Massive bearish candle, but the bulls ate it back up and we're holding in the zone. Chainlink, my favorite altcoin in the market right now. Massive G to the downside. Bulls ate it back up, but holding in the zone. They look the same. Aerodrome. Look at this. Massive breakdown, holding in the zone. In fact, except this one broke out a little bit. And I talked about this, guys. I talked about this Friday. I said, watch for a move to break out of the zone. Everybody gets so excited. They don't want to miss out. And then it's just basically a bit of a bull trap, which is exactly what happened. Broke out and it's just kind of holding in the zone. In fact, I would expect, based on what we're seeing, this will likely come back down and test down here into the 76 cent range. So it's not why is this coin doing one thing or another, unless it is doing something so far out of the context that doesn't look like any other chart. Now, when we do come over to Solana, and we look at Solana, this is a bit out of context, right? Now, why is this one out of context with these other altcoins we're looking at? Well, one, Solana isn't in the Ethereum narrative. Solana is kind of in its own narrative, and there's a little bit of frustration with Solana right now because of the massive meme narrative that's within it. And the fact that all these just never ending pump and dump, rug pulls, all this stuff happening with the pump dot fund narrative and everything going on in the market, this is kind of getting a bit of a sell off. But when the price was over here, we were talking about here on the BitLab Academy up here. I was talking about price coming back down here into the 165 mark when the price was up here at 237. People are like, no, why would it do that? Because markets don't give a shit about your feelings. They don't care about your bias. This made sense. Why? Because when you look at markets and you go out and you pull a Fibonacci extension or a Fibonacci retracement, which is this is, then we're looking for this topic for target for weeks because this is the golden pocket retrace, which is a very, very, very regular, consistent pullback zone. The problem is people get a bias. It starts pushing up. You're like, oh, it's so exciting. And you forget that this is something that regularly happens. You know, yes, it's pushed up to 295. Does that make you mad that you get another opportunity down here at 166, 170? It shouldn't, unless you have a broken strategy, unless you're here to donate your money to other people. So Solana is not, why is Solana crashing? It's like, hey, where is there opportunity in this chart? And this is that opportunity here. And as I outlined last week, the next opportunity below that is down here in this 126 range. But how would it go to 126 when it was just 300? Man, you guys realize these markets provide such a roadmap for what's going on if you use the tools that are available to you in this market. Now, Sui's part of that conversation going on with the that crypto council, crypto digital asset deal that they're doing with Bo Hines. And I mean, yes, this looks so bearish. Okay, but let's first off realize, look at this massive move. This was running when a lot of other stuff was crashing. So let it take a break, maybe. And up here, we talked about it. Look at this, 561. We talked about price coming down here to 240. People said, why would that happen? Because the damn data on the chart suggests that that's where it could go. And then what happened? Okay, well, we had a rising wedge here, which told you the statistical uh, likelihood of this breaking down was about 70%. And what happened? Boom, it broke down. So where would those targets be? One is the first target here, the 382, which it came down to, slice right the hell through. And look at this, came right down to the golden pocket, the 0.618 golden fib. I mean, bounced directly on it. So now it's sitting in the zone. Is it something that why is Sui breaking down? Why is it crashing? No, it's why doesn't your data, when you're looking at the charts, why doesn't your bias allow you to see what's likely beyond what you want to happen? In fact, if you are very bullish on this project at this level, even if you didn't take any profits, you should say, okay, if this starts to reverse, okay, here's your fib. What are the targets we're looking at? Well, your very simple targets, the 382 right here in the golden pocket. Boom. Very, very easy to do when you stop looking at the market through your bias. And on top of that, looking at the 6-hour chart, what do we see? Look, it did break down, came back up, perfect retest, confirmed the move, and then lost that zone. So there's multiple things in here telling you. And in fact, on this zone where it did break down on the bounce, could you have called the bounce? Well, you could see bullish divergence stacking into that. So yeah, you could have started to see that. The question is going to be here, and it's not just Sui, but it's Sui, it's Link, it's Ethereum, it's Aerodrome. It's the market right now is waiting to see where the certainty level is going to be in the market, where risk on, risk off is. Because when we come back over here, this all seems like it's disjointed. It's not. All of this comes together with the same story. What is the appetite for risk in this market? And everybody's going, and I apologize for the language, everybody's going, what the fuck is going on in the economy? You can't compare what's going on now to what was happening in 2022 because 2022 is just after the global economic shutdown, COVID, all that. We had huge amounts of liquidity pouring into markets. It really jacked everything up. Now we have this massive inflation they're trying to put under control, but we can't service debts because we can't print money. So what the hell, right? You look at eggs, it's like, it's so you got to look at what's going on with the US dollar. US dollar getting this massive spike right here. Why? Because all this discussion around tariffs. So it's making the dollar very strong. It brings everybody globally to the table to talk with Trump about what are our tariffs and regulations, trade agreements. So he made the dollar very strong with all these tariffs, brought them to the table, and now they can make better deals. And once all this stuff sort of shakes out over the next few weeks, and it's not that Trump wants the dollar to run away because then other nations can't service their debt to the US. So you make it very strong for the negotiations, you lock that in, and then the dollar starts to fall. And this is like small amounts, up here to 110. We're talking about the dollar coming back down here to 196, something like this. But this move from this level all the way down into here would be massively bullish for the market. Look at the Bitcoin market right here, this massive move up. You see these moves to the downside? Similarly, right here, look at this. This is roughly about where we're at, I would expect in this cycle. Look at from this point here. Look at how much Bitcoin moved when the Dixie was 100, and it dropped to 91. So it dropped 9 points. And in that same time frame, price went from $2,691 to $20,000. So this setup is so bullish. So we all need to stop being crying little impatient babies, which all of us are. I am, you are, your mother is. Yeah, that's right. I'm talking about your mother. But what we're talking about here is, why isn't the market moving? Motherfucker, zoom out and realize since September, look at this, September 2nd, let's do a little measurement tool. Why isn't the market moving? No, why aren't we more patient? The market moves since, I got to see there. Okay. Since September 3rd, the market has pumped 103% on Bitcoin. A doubling in price in Bitcoin is massive for the markets. The whole world, remember, you might have been in this market, or even whether you're invested or not, you might have been paying attention to this market for the last few years. The world is only now in the last 12 months starting to be open to the idea of Bitcoin, since BlackRock, Fidelity, and the other 9 Bitcoin spot ETFs started speaking positively about it. Remember, the last 16 years, every institution out there has talked about how Bitcoin's an index for money laundering. It's for, drugs and illicit activity, this nonsense. And all of a sudden they make a Bitcoin product. They're like, hey guys, this is the best asset ever. So this is only now coming to the awareness of the world. MicroStrategy, they've done such an incredible job changing from being a software company to being a strategic Bitcoin bank, custody company. And it's the best performing stock in the history of stocks. So all these things are starting to build this strong opportunity narrative for institutions, governments around the world. And then it all, comes back to, as well as that, having our president come out much more bullish in the face of what Bitcoin is. Talking about, let's do a strategic Bitcoin reserve, and that's still on the table. Cynthia Loomis has a bill in Congress in government right now that will mean 200,000 Bitcoin purchased per year for the next 5 years. Just that acknowledgement of this on the floor makes every other nation in the world say, what the hell is our strategy, right? So the fact right now in these markets, why isn't it moving? No, why aren't we being more patient on the face of the most bullish setup that we've ever seen in these markets? And we're like, why isn't it moving? No, why aren't we moving heaven and earth to take advantage of the assets and the prices with where they're at these levels? So that's what I'm seeing right now, guys. That's what I'm feeling. We're going to cut it a little short today because I have some things that I have to take care of. And there's, I'm a guest in somebody's house here. But I'm going to do, I got some stuff coming, some big announcements coming to the members area in Discord and also here on YouTube here in about 2 days. It's very exciting. Some really cool opportunities that are arising for everybody that's a member. So I love you. I want to come over back because I don't have my screens. Let me come back over to this page. I want to make sure I didn't miss any super chats or anything like that. Okay. Well, I love you guys. I appreciate you. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. Remember, take advantage of the opportunity while you can. Who's that? Quarter Crawler says he's bullish on eggs. But hey, guys, I love you. I appreciate you. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Adios. Oops. I got to switch the screen. I don't know where the screen is. And I'm still on. Adios. Yeah, you can like it. Hey, hit the like button, subscribe button, and ding the bell. Where's my end screen? There we go.